In this video we're going to be trying to pick between these. Yes, we've got a lot of super shoes on the channel today, but I'm going to try and pick one from these 5. What is up everybody, and welcome to Super Shoe HQ. And have a look, see what I mean. How much have we got here? 200, 400, 600, 800. I've got like £1,000 in my hands. That is mad. Right guys, so before we get into anything else, let me know in the comments which one of those do you own. We've got the Endorphin Pro 3, we've got the Metaspeed Sky Plus, Adios Pro 3, Rocket X2, and what was the other one? Vaporfly 3. The other thing to do before we get into the rest of the video is, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Okay, right, so now we have the Metaspeed Sky Plus in the sort of rotation. I wanted to sort of come back. I know I've done a few super shoe videos, but you guys said about the Metaspeed Sky Plus, so I've slotted it in, and I wanted to sort of, I don't know, rate them all out of 10. Now this is not going to be very technical, and we're not going to go too deep in terms of ratings, alright? We're not going to start, you know, using gyrometers and all this sort of stuff. I'm just going to give you a mark out of 10 in terms of how I find them, but also I want to recommend to you where I think they're best suited, what distance, that kind of thing. Okay, let's start with a newbie in the rotation. We've got the Flight Foam Turbo in here, we've got full length carbon plate, and I think all of them actually have a full length carbon plate, apart from the Adios Pro, which has the energy rods. We've got a belly there, upper, they're all the same. And what else? Oh, outsole's okay. And that's probably about it. It fits true to size. And I think the biggest takeaway for this shoe is the amount of foam under the forefoot. This really does feel forefoot heavy in a good way. You really feel like that motion gets the best out of the shoe, which you kind of would expect, but it really does reward that forward strike. If you come back a little bit, it sort of does wobble about a bit. There's not too much there, it's quite thin, so it's not so forgiving when you do come out of your top pace. Over target pace, so for me, our target pace is between 8 and 8:10 per mile for the marathon. I found the ride a little bit uninspiring and nothing really there. When you drop it to sort of half marathon pace, the shoe comes alive for me. So it's a bit of a funny one, and that's why I'm probably going to give it about a 7.5 out of 10. I think the shoe's very good, but for me, it's when I compare it against the others, it's that sort of no man's land. It's between the marathon and half marathon and shoe, and that's probably why I give it the 7.5 out of 10. It's a very good shoe, and all of these shoes are very good, by the way, and they'll all do you a perfectly good job. But for me, it's a sort of 7.5 out of 10 because it sits in that no man's land between the marathon and the half marathon. Next up, the Adios Pro 3, 39mm stack Light Strike Pro, Celamesh 2.0, and then we've got those energy rods that I spoke about, and a Continental rubber outsole, which looks fantastic considering I've run a marathon in the shoe. This shoe, I would say, is probably a 9 out of 10, maybe even a little bit stronger, but that's because it sits at that marathon distance for me and works perfectly well. And I think that's the sort of scoring system that I'm trying to achieve here. Does the shoe know what it needs to do for me? Yes, it needs to run a marathon. Does it perform well at that distance? Yes. And that's the thing, that's why I gave it such a good score. I think for me, this is the best marathon shoe that I have. It just ticks all the boxes. It's stable enough when I come off of it. It's not trying to ask for that forward strike all the time, but when I do give that forward strike, it rewards me. The energy rods aren't over the top in terms of the feeling of them, but they're enough there to give you the propulsion. So yeah, I think I'm going to give this shoe a 9 out of 10. Okay, next up is the Next Percent 3. We've got Zoom X, a full length plate in it, weighs next to nothing. We've got this great upper on it, which does sort of gather up, but it is super breathable. That's why I say it's a great upper. Offset lacing, and you've got a little bit more rubber coverage than before in terms of the waffle design, which I think has improved the shoe massively, mainly because it's reduced the noise. I'm going to give this shoe probably a 7.5 as well, because, no, actually I'm going to give it an 8, because for me it's that sort of shoe that sits between all of the distances. Now you might say actually that should be rewarded, and probably it could do, but I don't know, it still lacks that identity. It's still quick, but I'll come on to another shoe in a minute which I think might be quicker for me over a certain distance. But I think, I don't know, this is the best Next Percent 3 I've run in, But I just think for the other distances that are, for the distances that I have, I think there's better shoes for me to choose. Does that make any sense? I do think this has the potential to do the marathon for me. It's a little bit more stable than previous versions. But yeah, I think it's 7.5, 8 maybe out of 10. You might strongly disagree. There's nothing against the shoe. Again, this is how I see it fitting into my world. But it is that sort of shoe that can, I don't know, it's not a definite place in terms of distance for me. Now you might think that this scoring system is complete nonsense, and probably actually in retrospect it is. But I'm trying to show you that the shoes that sort of work for me, I'm trying to give them a high score because they know their identity, they know they perform well, and they do exactly what I want them to do. Does that make any sense? Hopefully let me know in the comments. Okay, so next up, we've got the Rocket X2. Now I'm going to give this shoe 9.5 out of 10, yes, because it is a half marathon shoe for me. Nothing else, nothing less. It is perfect for the half marathon distance. Yes, I ran a PB in it, so you might say that's probably why I've given it. But it's so good. It's just so fast. It feels amazing underfoot. It really, really does. It's the new Peeper foam in it. You've got plate in it, and you've got a reasonable outsole in it. The uppers, fine. It's just one of those breathable sort of mono mesh feeling uppers. But it's just so fast. It is ridiculously fast, and over the half marathon distance it comes alive. It's just great. So that's why I give it 9.5 out of 10. I could easily drop this into a 10k or a 5k, but I would use the Vaporfly. But yeah, this is just a quick shoe, and that's why I think at the half marathon distance is perfect for me, and I think it could be perfect for you, and that's why I'm giving it 9.5. Okay, so our last shoe, and I'm going to totally contradict everything I've said. Yes, I am. As always on FORDY, I say what I like. But the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 is getting a 10 out of 10. You're going to go, what are you doing? Because when I say the reason this gets a 10 out of 10 is because it crosses all over all the distances, right? You're going to go, total contradiction. I think a shoe that does all those distances really, really well should be rewarded. I know you're going to say no, but you've got to remember that this shoe's a lot cheaper than the Nike Next Percent 3, okay? And for an everyday runner, I think this is probably the best out of all of those because it does all of them very well. 5k, yep, no problem. 10k, no problem. Half marathon, no problem. The speed roll technology, the full length plate in it, the power run PB midsole, everything in this shoe is set up perfectly for the everyday runner to go out there and achieve their goals and get those times that you're after. So that's why, despite contradicting myself, I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. So I don't know whether that's helped. I think that sort of ratified, is it the word ratified, my comments in other videos about the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 being the sort of best everyday runner's race shoe. I think it's reasonably stable as well. I think it can give you everything you need on the race day. But I think all those shoes do a good job, but I just think the Asics Metaspeed Sky Plus for me is in sort of no man's land, and the Vaporfly 3 is crossing over a few sort of distances, but not all of them. Otherwise I'd have rewarded it for more. Okay, right, so that's it from me. Let me know in the comments whether you agree, disagree. Has the Speed 3, Pro 3 worked for you? Has it not? What about some of those other shoes? Let me know in the comments and I'll jump in there when this video drops.